Hello, everybody, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 128. Woo!
Woohoo!
Because it's 2 to the 8th. I like numbers like that.
Yep. Awesome.
So, Andrew Eisen here, along with E. Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody.
And Dream Peppers says he or she, sorry, I don't know, wants us to discuss Nintendo Club, which we will.
Yep.
People cracked a way to get unlimited free coins for Nintendo Club. I didn't hear that. But
I've heard that people.
what are you going to buy with them anyway?
I've heard that people hacked the amiibos and have been flashing the amiibos to work with different characters.
I had heard someone had figured out the NFC code for the Duck Hunt dog or something like that, and so unlock the player figure, whatever it's called in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Which sounds like I've had some. Well, I don't want to pay $13 for these damn toys to unlock things in games I already own, or to pay for DLC that really shouldn't cost that much. Maybe I'll just buy an NFC read writer, go get the codes for the amiibos, and then just dupe it that way. But NFC read writers cost like $50 for the hardware, and then usually the software packages are like $150 or something. I haven't even priced them, and that's kind of cheating.
Yeah. But yeah, Dream Pepper asks, what Linux I run. I run Ubuntu, and it's just been the easiest version of Linux. I tried several others, but it's just the one that it's easiest to install and does everything that I need, and if I feel like digging down deep, it makes that easy too. So that's what I do. And so I've got 14.10 installed, and 15.4 should be released this April, which it usually is. But yeah.
All right, let's see. So, PS3 report. I have not played any PS3 games yet, and for an interesting reason.
Exchanged yet?
No, I decided not to. I couldn't really find a bundle that I wanted that wasn't like, way over $100 more than
what you paid, or what that one is.
Paid for this one. And besides, I thought, you know what? I'll just keep the 12 gig and then throw a larger hard drive in it. Not a big deal. Because hard drives are cheap. Plus, I know people. Tom, the other guy in my department at work, is a photo bug. He takes pictures of everything. So the man has RAIDs at home. And so he has, he uses terabyte-sized hard drives now. So he had I have a 500 gig hard drive. I'll just format it for you and give it to you. So, hold on, visual aids. All right, so I got a 500 gig hard drive, and I go to open up my PS3, and both sides look like this, and I'm looking all over it, and I can't find.
Oh, I couldn't see that. That was kind of halfway off the edge.
Okay, here it is. This is the PS3. Both sides look like this. The hard drive is actually under this thing. It doesn't say hard drive here. There's no indication of how to get this off. You have to kind of press in one side and slide it. And once I got it off, I found out that you need a mounting cradle, a hard drive mounting bracket to put the hard drive in.
You can't just that one doesn't come with the hard drive in it.
Right. Well, there is a 12 gig.
Well, yeah, there's like a flash drive in there.
Right. Exactly. So it's not like you pull out the 12 gig and you put your own in. It's got a port for expansion.
That's funny that it doesn't actually come with the.
So it's built so that if you want to expand it, you actually have to buy a mounting cradle, which is, it retails for $9.99. The only problem is Sony doesn't sell it anymore.
You would think that it would actually come with it inside, and all you'd have to do is switch it out.
Or they'd build it just like a regular laptop hard drive loader bay. I'm sure there's some reason they didn't do it that way, but
Well, just hit up Craigslist and find somebody who has a broken hard drive or a broken PS3 and say, "Hey, do you mind if I just buy the hard drive cradle out of yours?"
Yeah, I already picked up a hard drive cradle, a mounting bracket from Amazon for like $5.50. I would have got the one that was $4.50, but it was from some guy in Hong Kong, and it was free shipping, but couldn't get it to me to the end of February, so I paid the extra buck to get it next week. I also picked up Valkyria Chronicles
Good
because
choice.
I have long wanted to play that
Yeah.
game.
Good choice. I still enjoy that. I haven't beaten it yet. You'll probably beat it before I do, but yes, it's a very good choice for a game. So.
I'm also racking up quite the collection of PS3 games because one of my YouTube viewers actually contacted me and uh, gave me some games. So I
Really
now have
nice.
Zone of the Enders HD collection, which I've
Awesome.
never played, but Mark Ryan, who you guys may know from IGN, former uh, he ran the guides channel for a long time, and now he's a product management or something like that. He's a big Zone of the Enders fan, so it'll be nice to see what the hell he's been talking about all these years.
I've heard good things about that one. I haven't
Yeah,
played it either.
I also got Heavy Rain, which I do know quite a lot. Jason, yeah. Um, I've played a Fahrenheit 450. No, it's not called that. No, it's just Fahrenheit or Indigo Prophecy or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a great idea that completely falls on its face in the first after the first like third.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but it should be really interesting. So I'm really excited to give these a try. Of course, I have to get the PS3 up and running, and methinks Tomb Raider comes first. I'm also going to keep uh, Disney Infinity um, because I figure, I bitch about Infinity and Skylanders so much. It would be nice to actually play the game and at least know how the game works, if the
Yeah.
game is, because I've played Skylanders, and Skylanders is actually pretty okay.
Yeah.
Um, as a game, it's worth playing. It's cute. It's charming. It'll keep you entertained for an afternoon. It's fine. Disney Infinity, I've never played. It looks terrible, but who knows? Maybe it'll actually be cool. So
Yeah.
I'll give that a go.
And it's also good to have around in case you gain an enemy who has kids and you give that to him so that his kids start bugging him for the figures and everything and it's great little punishment there.
Yeah. So, but right now I am playing Kirby Return to Dreamland for the Wii, going through my backlog because I last weekend I think I went and got all the green stars and stuff that I finished up Super Mario 3D World, and now I just went back to Kirby Return to Dreamland because I'll be writing the guide for Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, I think it's called. That comes out next month, so I figured,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't want to miss anything in the Kirby chronology that'll have me confused by the time Rainbow Curse rolls around. So I better get this
Yeah,
game under my belt
because
right
I'm,
quick.
I'm sure there's this very deep and deep canon that you have to keep track of in order to know what's going on in the latest games. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate to be just completely lost as far as the story goes in Rainbow Curse. So what's been occupying your gaming time this week?
This week, golly, what have I been doing this week? This week, actually, I haven't. I don't think I've played very many games. Mainly because this past week was the last week that the Oklahoma legislature can file bills to be heard this year, and so I had been watching that like a hawk because I'm involved in several political groups that have an interest, and so I've been watching that. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any video game legislation introduced. I didn't actually search. I could do that real quick, um, but yeah, I haven't the only thing I've played this week is more Ark the Lad, um, and that's just me. I'm trying to play it more and actually beat it, but yeah, no legislation for regarding video games, at least video games as a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't count any legislation that calls them videos or just games.
So, go ahead.
But yeah, but other than that, I've been preparing for this next Thursday. I'm going to be giving a presentation at a local game development meetup about Hakes Flixel, the game API that I use, and so I've been working on some slides and trying to get some sample code and stuff that I can show off there and be able to show different aspects of the API that I like and that could be very useful and interesting for people to see. But Ark the Lad for the PS1, I actually think it did come out at least as Delirical One is asking about it, and I think it came out as a special edition with all three Ark the Lads together. And if you actually want to buy that, it's like $100 if you actually find a full copy of that. But I'm playing it on PSN download, or PlayStation 1 download stuff. But yeah, and so really that's been my week. I guess the only other interesting thing is the Toho Super Smash Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign that I mentioned the past couple of things. They canceled their funding, and they had doubled their original funding goal. They had $10,000 goal and went up to 20. But they are using a IP. It's kind of an open IP. The guy who created it, is fine with people, making games and doing other things with the IP as long as they stick with, certain guidelines. And apparently, there was a lot of miscommunication between them, and because the guy who owns the IP only speaks Japanese, and they're Japanese Americans, but the guys making the games were, but they didn't speak Japanese fluently, and so there's a lot of miscommunication and stuff, and eventually they figured out that the guy who created the IP, one, doesn't support crowdfunding. He wants you to make the game on your own dime until it's finished, and then once it's done, you can sell it, and make money after it's done. But there's a problem with that is the guy only wants you to use Japanese-centric distribution services. So Steam and even the Wii U was completely out of the question. So they had to use other stuff. So that really limited their market. So they ended up canceling the campaign, and so now it's all they're still going to make the game, but they've decided to to stop using the Toho IP in it, and they're just going to make their own characters and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what they do from there. But yeah, so that's kind of a sad end to that game, because the game's looking really good, and whatever they do, the new characters they create, I'm sure the game's gonna be pretty good too. But yeah, it's kind of, it loses that Toho stuff. The what's the word? The name recognition, brand recognition. So, but yeah, that's all the interesting stuff that happened with me this week.
Yeah.
That I've been watching.
Matthew says, tell Sega to release Skies of Arcadia. Sega did release Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast, and Skies of Arcadia Legends for the GameCube. GameCube? Wii? GameCube.
Yeah, I think it's a GameCube game.
And that is one of my favorite RPGs. I love that game. Great game. Wonderful game. Needs a sequel. And interestingly enough, with some of the Vice, Ica, and whatever the other woman's name is, are apparently side characters or hidden characters in Valkyria Chronicles, which is kind of fun.
Huh.
Let's see.
I probably wouldn't have noticed even if I found them because I haven't played Skies of Arcadia, so
It's a great game.
I, it's on my list of my wish list of games that I could get.
Yeah.
Along with 1,000 other ones.
Let me put it this way. You play a plucky young pirate kid, you know, who wants to be an upcoming, who's an up and coming pirate, and your parents don't die. They live throughout the entire game. You can go home and say hi to mom and dad anytime you want. It is so cool. I mean, because it starts with a raid on a pirate ship, and then they go home, and then you go to all the houses, and you figure, and then the home is attacked. And you're like, oh, of course they're going to kill the parents, and then and raise the town, and that's going to be the inciting incident that sends our duo out into the or trio eventually out into the world. I was like, no, it is attacked, but everyone comes up. No one dies in the game, and no one's really even that bad. At most, there are very few truly bad people. When you beat all the bosses, you kind of come to an understanding. Just because Vice is so darn good that everyone likes him. The game is painfully charming.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Lyrically, you didn't like the air fights. You mean the ship-to-ship battles? I actually really did like the ship-to-ship battles. I think it's balanced well enough to where there aren't so many of them that they get annoying. If you don't like them, you don't like them. That's fine. But they could have been really tedious if you had to do them all the time. For what I hear, the Dreamcast version, the random encounter rate was way too high. So they did fix that in Legends. Let's see. Did we make Game Politics? No. Zachary and I did not actually make Game Politics. We just write for it.
The guy who found it is
Dennis McCauley.
Yeah, Dennis McCauley, and he, it was bought by the ECA the ECA when was that? About 2006?
No, I think it was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, somewhere around there, and he stuck around for a while.
Game Politics started in 2005.
Yeah, and then he stuck around for a while, and then he decided he wanted to do something else, and then the ECA took over, and there was Pete, I forget his last name.
Pete Gallagher.
Pete Gallagher. He edited for a while, and then James took over. A
year or so, and James took over, and James is still managing editor. So
yeah. Andrew's been around since the LiveJournal times, and I was around shortly after it became GamePolitics.com, and sometime around the peak of the Jack Thompson debacle, I started moderating comments, and then once sometime after James started editing, I started guest posting every now and then. So.
Yeah, Dennis brought me on as a contributor in February of 2006. So, and the site started, I think, in like April of 2005. So I've been around pretty much since the beginning. Long time, but it's been a lot of fun. The Dream Peppers also says he liked my Tropical Freeze guide. Thank you, because that was a lot of work, because I did both written and video for that one. I did have help with doing some of the writing. I think I had a guest writer write maybe 3 of the 6 or 7 worlds in that game. But yeah, and the process of creating guides is a hell, because I come home from work and I work on the guide. Do they pay me well? No, not for how much time I'm putting. That's why I always try to do small, simple games but then again, I'm an idiot and I keep doing stuff like Monster Hunter and Hyrule Warriors. Although in my defense, I had no idea how big that game would be. But okay, so let's see. So the poll for this week, which I have lost. Here we go. Nintendo has decided that Club Nintendo is going to come to an end and will be replaced with something else. Now, Iwata did mention something about a customer rewards program during one of the investor meetings, and I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. He said something about a new initiative that would reward customers for their loyalty. So I think that is kind of what he was insinuating. So the poll this week asks, will the successor to Club Nintendo be worth a damn? Because a lot of people agree that Club Nintendo, at least in North America, is a bit lacking. It's a bit cumbersome to use, and the rewards have been pretty lame of late, especially when
Yeah,
compared to other regions who tend to
yeah.
get some awesome
Japan
stuff.
tends to get some pretty good stuff, and even Europe got better stuff than the U.S. from what I understand. So it's all Nintendo of America's fault that our rewards suck. But Nintendo of
Thanks,
America seems
Iwata.
to have lots of issues.
Hmm. So, will the successor to Club Nintendo be worth a damn? 102 people voted, and 16% said it will be awesome. 41% said, well, it's got to be better than what we have now, am I right? 25% said it won't be much different. And 19% said it will suck so bad Tingle will be embarrassed by it. Uh, I
Nice.
I can't remember what I wrote. It was either, well, it's got to be better than what we have now, or it won't be much different.
Yeah. See, I
Um,
went with it's got to be better than what we have now. But to be honest, I don't have any current Nintendo stuff, and I don't have any new Nintendo games or anything. So I have zero experience with Club Nintendo. But I'm just basing all this off of the stories that from my friends that I've read and heard. And yeah, anything they do has got to be better than this, because they're really going to have to screw up if they make it any worse, if that's even possible.
yeah. So they have the deluxe digital promotion, which I think they extended it was going to end at the end of last year, but I believe they extended it a little longer, and that was if you bought the Wii U Deluxe, which I did. Um, every, I don't know, $50 or something you spend on eShop games, you get $5 Nintendo point credits to go towards other digital goods. Z2400, hi. Why are we using Twitch chat, not the Google chat? Because the Google chat doesn't work as well. Either that, or I don't know how to use it as well.
Yeah.
If there's a way to invite everybody in without having to make them part of my circle, or get Google Plus accounts, or do something weird, I'll look into that. What was I talking about? Oh, so I think we're gonna, hopefully, and based on what Iwata said earlier this year in an investor meeting, uh, I think the rewards may still be kind of lame, but I think it's going to be a lot easier to use rather than I mean, because they were making strides as far as if you bought a digital game, it would automatically register if you used your Nintendo Network ID instead of actually having to manually type in that 16 or 24-digit code or whatever it is. If you buy it retail, I think you still have to do that. But maybe if they include, I've said this before, but maybe if they included an NFC chip in the box, you could just tap it on the gamepad and it'll register like that, and you won't have to type in the stupid code.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Codename Z. Yeah, I recognize that name. Hey. Um, so,
Just
what would you like to see in a Club Nintendo successor? And that goes for you, Chad, too.
I would probably want to see ease of use. The 16-digit codes are kind of a pain in the butt, from as you were saying. The 3DS and the Wii U both have NFC readers, so they should take advantage of those. Let's see. Some decent rewards would be good. Free DLC or even free games occasionally. You know, um, I think things like the PlayStation, PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live, gold stuff that they're doing now, where they're, you get lots of all kinds of perks and you get free games and stuff through those. It'd be nice to do something like that. I don't know how, what Nintendo would do, how comfortable they would be doing something like that, but they got to make it worth it. And that's really all some insider stuff, like everyone, get early access to their Nintendo Directs. That would be pretty neat too. But yeah, other than that, I have no idea, because like I said, I don't have any direct experience with what the current thing is. So.
Yeah. Nintendo PSX has statues and soundtrack CDs. And soundtrack CDs are always cool. And I've never been one for little statues, even though you can see a few up here, but they just happen to come in the boxes of whatever I was buying. So maybe they could have amiibos as an award. Rack up enough customer loyalty points, and we'll send you an amiibo. So something useful like that. But I do like the Digital Deluxe programs. The more you spend, the more, every $50 they'll give you a $5, an extra $5 to spend in the eShop. I think that's great. Stuff like they had a Doc Lewis Punch-Out years ago, where it was kind of a special little bit of DLC where Platinum members could get either a Mario hat, or they could get an extra opponent character in Punch-Out for the Wii, which is your trainer Doc Lewis, which was awesome, except that was a year that I didn't make Platinum, simply because that was a year where there weren't that many Wii games. That was when the Wii U was starting to dry out, so I didn't make Platinum that year, and that bums me right the hell out, because I loved Punch-Out, and I really would have liked to square off against Doc Lewis.
Just kind of an interesting story about, I bought a boxed copy of Little Nemo at a thrift shop once. It was back in 2001, I think, and it came with a little card, to send in to join whatever the club was at the time. And I was just like, I wonder what would happen if I sent this in, because this game was like 15 years old at the time. So I was just like, okay, well, let's send this in. And so I mailed it in, and then I got back a letter saying, I'm sorry, but this club no longer exists, but enjoy this free copy of Nintendo Power, or whatever the magazine was at the time. And I was like, cool. At least I got something out of it. But yeah, that was just kind of interesting and neat. Just a little fun experiment there.
Mm-hmm. Delirical one wants more clothing and book bags. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of calendars and stationery and stuff, but the Mario hat was really, really popular. So I think they do well by pairing up with some of the fan T-shirt makers and making some cool Nintendo swag. Nintendo might also want to open up the damn Nintendo store beyond New York. Seattle, I think.
Turn it, with T-shirts and stuff, turn it into kind of a loot crate type thing. Just get a package with stickers and shirts or whatever in it. Be kind of fun. That would cost a little bit extra money than whatever you currently get, but I guess if you racked up enough points and saved up enough points, you could pick that surprise gift box out of it.
A Nintendo loot crate.
Yeah.
For every month they just send you a bunch of crap, Nintendo themed crap. I like it. But yeah, clothing options. They could have you could get an official pair of Mario overalls or Luigi overalls, or a Princess Peach dress or something.
That would be fun.
Or that slinky red number that Pauline wears. Okay. Or even Bayonetta's outfit.
There we go.
because she's a Nintendo character now, and I still say she would have been fine in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
So, okay, let us move on and talk about Crash Override, which apparently is the name of a character in the movie Hackers from the 90s, which one of our readers at Game Politics was making fun of, and I totally didn't get it because while I saw Hackers, I didn't care for it because I'm one of those people who is bothered when people don't play video games correctly or don't use computers correctly in movies and TV shows. But
I laugh at it. It's just I see stuff like that, and I just have to laugh, and so. Hackers is one of those ones that.
The thing is, coding is not visually interesting or sexy at all. So I understand it's slow and boring. It's not like tappity 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 and things are flying all over the screen. No, that is unless you are some weird savant level coder who can just code at 50 lines a minute or something like that. That's not how coding works. This is usually this is what a hacker looks like. Tap 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 tap. Doodle notes, click, click. You can't make a movie out of that. It's boring. So you gotta have the camera moving, and it's not how it works. Anyway, so Crash Override is a let's see. It's a
support network and assistance group for victims and targets of unique forms of online harassment.
Right. So Zoe Quinn, who is one of the more harassed people on the internet of late, or of the last half year anyway, got together with Alex, and I'm going to guess Lifshitz for the last name. I guess that's how that would be pronounced. Got together and created the Crash Override Network, and I do wonder if that's a reference to hackers or not, which is a support network and assistance group for people who are targeted, who are targets of online harassment and receive threatening emails, tweets, get doxxed, like that. They are not a vigilante group that goes after people who are harassing you. But if you find yourself on the receiving end of a lot of harassment, this is another place to turn to, another tool in your arsenal. So they provide counseling services, emotional support, and
outreach and activism.
Outreach and activism can also help connect you with the proper police and FBI channels that you should be talking to, and also help mediate that conversation, because as many of the people who have been targets of harassment have learned, sometimes the police don't know what the internet is and don't understand how it works. And it's like, well, it's just on the internet, right? Well, stop using the internet. It's like, using the internet is my job, dude. I have to use the internet.
Yeah.
So, this has apparently been in the works for quite a little while and has actually been active for about a month. But they just kind of announced their presence this week. They have a small staff of volunteers. It's a not-for-profit as of right now, although that could change in the future. Apparently all the volunteers are people who have been through this, so, it's like, not only am I the founding member, I'm a client type of thing, so. And Quinn and Lifshitz are the only named people involved. Everyone else is anonymous, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
So, that's cool that we have another avenue of support in case you get doxxed or harassed or are on the receiving end of some online unpleasantness. So, thoughts on that, Zachary?
No, I think it's I think it was what's the word I was thinking of? Inevitable. That something like this would happen. There's been a lot of issues of late with people getting harassed and stuff. So and there, and not everybody can handle it the same way. People like Brianna Wu. She seems to handle things pretty well. She knows what's happening, and knows how to respond to the individual things. But there's a lot of people who aren't quite in that same boat, and getting something like a death threat in email would be pretty traumatizing. And so having a network that person could get in touch with and say, I got this, and I'm really worried, and I would like some advice or help. Having somebody that's experienced with that, knows how that person feels and stuff. Would make it a lot better. This is kind of like a suicide hotline type situation. Where it's just somebody that is going to care and will be able to talk to you. So. But
Yeah, because I can imagine being dogpiled by a bunch of people on the internet can be a very isolating experience. Like, oh my God, everyone is out to get me. There is no one in my corner here. So,
yeah, and that's exactly what those who harass people online are wanting. They're wanting the person, the target, to feel isolated. They're wanting them to feel, you know, uh, vulnerable and scared and stuff. And so knowing that somebody has your back is going to allow you to get through that a lot quicker. So.
Z2400 says, do I think that Anita and Brianna are making a stunt just to fool the public? Well, Anita and Brianna aren't involved with crash overrides, so as far as I know anyway, I mean, it's possible they are among the volunteers, but who would know, unless you're referring to something else.
Well, he might be Z might be referring to just their public discussion and everything of the harassment they've been getting. And personally, I don't think that they're doing it just for publicity or anything. I think that they are getting a lot of that.
Well,
and, I read a lot of that crap targeted at Anita, and I've read a bit about at Brianna, and I don't think that if they're making up any of it, I don't that would just be kind of stupid.
Yeah, I don't see much point in doing that. I mean, if all the harassment is actually faked, like Anita hired a small army of people to create a bunch of different Twitter and various social media accounts to write nasty things about her, and on Twitter and Facebook and different message boards. You're referring to the harassment? No, I don't believe they're making up the harassment simply because I've seen it. The sheer scale of the harassment is so immense that it's impossible for them to be manufacturing that themselves.
Yeah.
Also, the amount of time, money, and effort that would be going into manufacturing that I would think be a hell of a lot more profitable invested in other endeavors.
Yeah, more positive. Focusing all that time and effort on this, would really harm any positive PR that they're trying to build. And I think they would be better off doing that. Personally, I've seen some of Brianna's responses to some of their harassment, and I think occasionally I feel that she would be better off just ignoring some of it. But I don't really want, I never say anything to her. I follow her on Twitter, and I think I've had a couple of exchanges with her in the past, but not about this. But I'm one of those people that it's not really my place to tell anybody what they should or should not do in response to this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like,
yeah, Brianna.
That's how you want to handle it. That's.
That's true. It's interesting seeing how different people respond to this. Respond to these things differently. Sarkeesian tends to not engage with it, but will talk about it and Especially in a lot of her different talks. She'll have examples. She'll talk about it and what it's like and the kind of stuff that she gets. And in a attempt, I think, to just the more you expose this stuff, to breed awareness. I think Brianna's her reaction a lot of time is to go into and these are a paraphrased version of her own words is to go on full on bitch mode. And she actually wrote something like that at one time. She says, "I'm going full on angry bitch mode now," and she will start yelling at people who yell at her, and maybe that's not working, maybe that's not constructive, but hey, I'm not on the receiving end of a bunch of harassment, so I don't know how I'd react to it either. It's certainly no less valid than Sarkeesian's approach.
No,
So
certainly. And,
but Wu also has she last I talked to her, she was trying to set up a some type of legal defense fund for people who are harassed. I haven't heard anything from her about that in the last month and a half or 2 months, so I may check back in with her and see if there's been any movement on that. From her that's treading new water for her. So she was just like, "This is an idea I have, and I'm putting out feelers to see what can be done along these lines." So, but I haven't heard anything about that since.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read anything about that. So. Interesting to see how that goes. Maybe it's something that eventually will get rolled into Crash Override or something similar.
Maybe, but it's interesting. I just Dream Peppers, who I think left the chat a little earlier, complimented me on my most recent video, which is almost a April Fool's Day prank. In the way that it's not about what you think it's going to be about. Essentially, the video is me pointing out a seeming disparity among the Mario Kart 8 sales that were reported last week and the Mario Kart 8 sales that were reported last June. And I'm like, now wait a minute, how could they have sold 2.82 million in June? And somehow have only sold 1.7 throughout the year. Are journalists not doing their job? And by the end of the video, which is only 3 minutes long, I say, wait, what's this small print at the bottom of the release? Oh, these are U.S. numbers. Oh, so 2.82 was worldwide, and 1.7 was what it sold in the U.S. throughout the year. Oh, okay. I guess I should look at the whole thing before commenting. And really the idea of the video was to make the point that if you're going to yell at an author about something, it would be nice if you at least read or watched what they said, because a lot of times you'll end up being wrong and look like a darn fool.
Well, yeah, and you see stuff like that around every time Sarkeesian releases a Tropes versus Women in Games video. Within seconds of the video going live, you get tirades from people on Twitter about how she's wrong and evil and
she wants to ban games. No. Yeah, I know. I have had so many discussions with people who just obviously have not watched her videos. And that is, Delirical says my vacation hair looks amazing. Thank you. It's a long vacation. This is about the best I can do with it, is, stick my head under the tap and then comb it straight back. But as it dries, it just... So,
well, at least you have more hair than I do. You can see this nice little shiny spot right here in my high forehead or my hairline, and then I'm a little thin back here now too. So
my hair's thinning too. I'll be 35 and dude, hey, my birthday's like next week. I'll be 35 in a week. So I figured, I've always wondered what I look like with long hair. It turns out terrible. So I figured.
People with tight curls like yours,
it really
long hair is not going to work out.
But I figured, if I ever want to find out, now's the time. before it gets too thin to actually grow out. Where was I going with this? Oh, my video. So, what it's meant to do is talk about, it's moralizing. It's like, don't yell at authors without knowing what the hell they're saying in the first place. Shame, shame. And and my character in the video is one of those people who, admonishes, game journalism as a whole for his own mistake, for his own, uh, because he didn't read the whole thing, he's making a mistake and blaming everyone else for it. And, don't be that guy. And I tried to do it in a fun and entertaining way. And most people took it that way, but I had a couple people who actually shut the video off halfway through, told me that they were American numbers and learned to read, and left it at that. And about 4 or 5, the video has about 3,000 views. I think there are only about 4 or 5 people who did that. One guy obviously did not read anything beyond the title of the video. But one person read halfway through, made that comment, and I ribbed him a bit. I said, I said, "Oh crap, you're right. Boy, don't I feel like a silly goose. I guess I should look at the whole thing before commenting, huh?" And unfortunately, this one guy was super offended by that and felt like I had trapped him or tricked him. And, and apparently a follower of mine for a while and felt like I'd punched him in the gut, and I'm like, oh, sorry, certainly not. So, that's probably one of the problems I have is nothing offends me. So I have an awful time seeing it from that perspective. And, I mean, well over 95% of the people who saw my video seem to enjoy it, so I guess I can't feel too bad about that success rate. I mean, you're never going to get 100% of your viewers to like your videos. Yeah. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like it. And, but I never try to deliberately, piss off people to this particular viewer, that last little look came off as smug condescension rather than, being playful. And, darn it, that's not what I intended, and it bothers me when that happens. But STL Creator says my birthday video should just be 5 minutes of me combing my hair.
Z2400 says that he watched all the videos from Sarkeesian, and the only one he agrees with is the Miss Mail one, or kind of agree with.
Okay.
That's fair enough. You don't have to agree 100% with anything anybody says. But personally, I've watched every single one of these that have come out, and I find a lot of things that yes, I agree with, and I like and stuff. But just on a personal level, I've wanted to be a game designer since I was 10, roughly around 10 years old. And in the 90s, when I was, teenager and everything, I started, designing games, writing out storylines and gameplay styles and character bios and stuff. And even back then, I recognized, and I didn't really think of this as a trope at the time. We didn't have things like TV tropes or stuff like that back in the 90s. We just kind of went off of what we, had that wasn't on the internet, because there really was no internet. But, even back then I recognized that yes, there were certain tropes in video games that were very overused, and one of those was the damsel in distress trope. And one of the games that I started designing was one that turns that damsel in distress trope on its head, where you play the princess who's saving the knight in shining armor, and that's kind of, I started exploring ways of avoiding some of those tropes, and so when she started, when that Kickstarter, when she launched her Kickstarter, and then later on when I watched the first videos, I was like, this is kind of how I've felt for a while now, that yes, there are these tropes, they're overused, they're not bad necessarily, they're just overused, and some of them can be degrading, like she points out, but but there's a lot of stuff that, when done right, these tropes can work for a story, but just the fact that they're 99 out of 100 games use the trope, makes it very difficult for somebody who does it right to really stand out. Because somebody will see, oh, they're using the damsel in distress trope, I'm just going to ignore that, and they don't really capture, they can't really get past that early dismissal to where you can actually dissect the entire game design and realize, oh, they're doing this actually really well. So that's just something that, just personal experience and all that.
Yeah, I keep another one of the videos in my hopper is the what I like most about tropes versus women, and I just never get around to it. And she'll probably get another video out before I do. Z2400. What are our names? My name's Andrew Eisen, and
I'm Zachary Knight.
Matthew, selection bias. I don't typically agree with those arguments. It really depends on how they're framed. But, a lot of people accuse her of cherry picking, and it's not really cherry picking, it's using relevant examples.
Yeah, one of the examples, was it Hitman or something, where it's like, she talks about
Hitman, sure.
Talking about, killing people and shoving them in closets, when she talks about mainly, you kill the girls and shove them in the closets, and everybody's quick to point out that you can do the exact same thing with, with the male characters too, kill them and shove them in closets. And
missing the overall point of the entire video, but
the same thing with the only difference, I guess, with GTA is that there aren't male prostitutes in GTA that you can interact with, as far as I know, in the same way as the women prostitutes. But, so I think that is a valid thing to point out and stuff. But just because you can kill men and women in GTA doesn't negate the fact that prostitution is a core game mechanic in the game, and it's mainly women prostitutes. So.
Yeah, I think most of the criticisms I see of Sarkeesian's work are just completely missing the point, which
Thunderfoot is one of the critics that gets touted about just about every time we have one of these discussions. And I watched one of his videos, and he did not really respond to her videos at all. It was I don't want to say all of it was, but a good chunk of it was just character assassination.
There
really wasn't anything talking about the
really
deconstruction of the tropes.
Assassination too.
Yeah.
Thunderfoot gets linked a lot, and I've watched some of his videos, and the first one I watched, it was like 20 minutes. I swear, about halfway through, I thought it was genius satire. I thought, this guy is hilarious. This is wonderful. And as the video went on, I went, oh, this guy's serious. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, you like him, you don't, great, take him or leave him. As long as you're not harassing Sarkeesian. And I've also found a lot of people who don't understand the difference between criticism and harassment. And I've seen people get them backwards from both directions. They'll stop harassing me. And it's like, dude, I'm just being critical of what you're saying. That's not harassment. And it's like, so you see it both ways, and it's so weird. Anyway, let us move on.
Move on, yes.
Because we're probably only going to get to one more. So, okay, we had a couple stories this week that were just kind of sad. There was a guy in Taiwan who died in an internet cafe after a 3-day gaming binge. Basically, he had, from what I read, he was unemployed and probably kind of depressed about that. and just spent all of his time in internet cafes playing games. And he had a cardiac arrest and went burp and slumped over. But everyone was used to him sleeping there, so no one really noticed that he was dead for like 10 hours. And I guess these are
Oh, wow.
24-hour internet cafes. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is that someone else had died early, like 2 weeks earlier, after a 5-day gaming binge. And to be, I find it nice that I haven't seen any articles going, these games are killers. It's like, no, you know, sitting on your butt in a cold room for 3 to 5 days straight, not eating or hydrating yourself properly, especially if you have a pre-existing medical condition, can
Hmm.
end you. Um, so,
So yeah, it's
what do
definitely
you
pretty sad.
what do you do about this? Do you kick people out of an internet cafe after 24 hours? It's like, I don't know how these places
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
work, but
I don't know either, and you got to think that that would be the way, you know, that would be the way to handle it. Um, is that you know, if you're running a business and you notice that somebody hasn't left your business for 18 hours, you know, you would think that it would be time to tell that guy to pack up and go home and get some sleep, you know, or something. But
mhm.
you know, but yeah, I have no idea what it's like in Taiwan or wherever else, you know, these stories happen, because you know, you really don't see anything like that happening in the U.S. I think there was a story um, a year or two ago about a kid who played Call of Duty so long that he actually passed out and was dehydrated and stuff, but he didn't actually
Yeah,
die.
yeah. That
Um,
was 2 summers ago. I think this was a kid who just on his summer break just kind of locked himself in his room
yeah,
and passed out from dehydration.
yeah, you know, he didn't die, but you know, really, that you know, just shows, you know, how dangerous, you know, it can be just to ignore your personal well-being. Yeah,
Yeah, don't not eat or drink for
yeah,
extended periods of time. You know,
yeah.
I most all these games have pause buttons,
Hmm.
or at the very least, you can, you know, finish a round and then go get a bite to eat and pick it
Yeah,
up again. I mean, hell,
but
even when I do my 24-hour marathon, I do take breaks to, you know, use the bathroom or eat.
yeah.
So,
But
but
you know, the stories that I find really sad, though, are the ones where it's the parents who are, you know, the parents are playing so much
oh
that they
yeah,
ignore the well-being of their kids, and that to me is just sick and just and wrong. You know,
hmm,
yeah, you know, I find, you know, I have 5 kids, okay, and I'm about to have a sixth one, and there are times when I just want to ignore my kids, but it's just like it's never more than half an hour that I'm kind of just locked away because I just need some time alone. But it's, you know, even during those times, it's just like, you know, if I hear them arguing or fighting or whatever, you know, I'll go out there and diffuse the situation and stuff. But yeah, and I couldn't imagine, you know, ignoring them for so long that their health gets impacted or they even die. That's just, I can't even think about that. That's just wrong.
yeah. So another story we saw this week is that in the Philippines, some kids stabbed each other over a game of DOTA, and there was some legislation passed, essentially, from what I understand, just outright banning DOTA from being played. Which, again, I don't live there, I don't know the culture at all, but um, actually, I do know someone from the Philippines. I might actually run it by her and see what her take is on it. But that, all of course, does not strike me as the solution. I don't think
No, it's never
really
the solution.
DOTA was the underlying reason that someone got stabbed.
Mhm.
So and killed. I think both of them died from what I read.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what and apparently they were yelling at each other over something that happened in the game, but again, is it really is it really certainly it's got to be. If it wasn't Dota, it would have been something else, right?
You would
I have to
think,
think that
yeah.
there's something, some societal or cultural or even personal thing that's going on here that's removed from Dota. I don't think taking Dota away is really going to change anything.
No, and that's rarely the solution. There's always been those arguments. After Columbine, there was a lot of discussion and stuff about banning games, and that really kind of set the catalyst in motion for all these all these bills that would make it illegal to sell M-rated games to minors and stuff. And all throughout that stuff, we're always talking about how that's really not what the problem is. The games are not the problem. Some people just especially people in power, they want the easy solution. They want the thing that they can crank out in half an hour and say, look, we did something. But really, it's just kind of a way for them to ignore the larger issues, the issues that take more time and take more effort and more money to really work on and fix, because it's easy to ban video game, write a bill and ban video games, but it's difficult to change culture, and that's really where it gets to eventually.
Yeah, and I don't know what's worse. I mean, is it worse to be ignorant enough to think that this is actually the solution, or is it worse to just be so lazy it's like, I can't be bothered to actually find the real solution, just ban the game, it looks like I'm doing, well, obviously that's worse. Just ban the game, it looks like I'm doing something. It's better to do something, even if I know it doesn't work, then I've never agreed with that.
Yeah.
So, APV 5, if that's binary, maybe APV 101, I don't know. Asks, do we think if games, do you guys think that gaming is taken too seriously nowadays, or do you think that gaming has always been taken seriously? It kind of depends on exactly what you mean. From a cultural perspective, I think it is finally, in the last several years, being taken seriously as an art form, as a legitimate pastime, and as something that people just do, like watch TV, read books, and watch movies and stuff.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the mid noughts, somewhere around 2005 or 6 or whatever, that's kind of where we kind of went to that turning point. But prior to that, video game was primarily looked at as a toy, as something your kids do. And it wasn't until the 80s and 90s generation have grown into adulthood that people are actually looking at video games as a creative medium, as an art form, as a valid form of entertainment along the lines of television and literature. And so, things like, Sarkeesian's, tropes, looking at the tropes in games, other critics, critical looks at video games and game design and stuff. I think, I agree with you. It hasn't been until these past few years or so that video games have really, really been taken seriously as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just keep going from there. Eventually we'll have an award show that people actually watch to the same level as the Oscars or the Academy Awards and stuff. Eventually we'll have that kind of recognition in the greater world, but it won't happen as long as Spike TV or similar similar groups control the award shows, though.
Yeah, Matthew points out that even BBC streams events on Twitch, and even there is starting to be a wider recognition of esports. The coverage in mainstream magazines, Time and Forbes and all those is a lot broader. So it's becoming accepted. It's being examined and studied, and that's also I think a lot of people don't understand is the critical view of video games that a lot of media critics uh, aim at our games.
Hmm.
If you're not interested, it's okay. You know, Sarkeesian's the way Sarkeesian looks at video games is not the only way to look at video games. And if that's not a viewpoint you're even interested in, it's cool. You know, you can totally ignore her videos and keep playing your games, and you're probably not going to notice any difference. If Sarkeesian gets everything on her wish list, you probably won't notice. And there are just going to be a larger variety of games out there
Yeah,
with a larger variety of themes and more representation of different types of people. You probably won't even notice. In
probably not. Yeah.
so, um, so that's the nice thing about, and it's the same thing with movie reviews. No, you know, you can look at goofballs like me on the internet and see what I think of Captain America 2 or whatever. You can read stuff at Chud or Badass Digest or IGN and see what
Tomatoes.
see what the enthusiast press thinks. You can look at aggregate sites like Rotten Tomatoes and see what the general public response to these films is, or you can look at critics like the late Roger Ebert or some of the other critics who look at it from more a highfalutin arty perspective. Um, there are a lot of different ways. Find the perspective you're most interested in, and although I always recommend find lots of different perspectives, because I always find it interesting looking at things from different perspectives, which is the one of the reasons why I like Sarkeesian's vid so much. Is she very often provides stuff from a perspective that I'd never considered before,
Yeah.
even if I don't have to agree with it to find it interesting. So, hell, even some of the stuff I disagree with, it can be some of the most interesting and prompt some of the most interesting discussions. So,
Apparently, Z2400 has missed the first part of the podcast.
yeah.
Andrew talked about
came in after the first 20 minutes
yeah.
or so.
Yeah, Andrew has already talked about Disney Infinity and Skylanders, and he enjoys Skylander as a game, but he still hates the figurines, and he's willing to try Disney Infinity, is what he said.
Yeah, I'll be trying Disney Infinity in the next week or two. But yeah, I really hate that. Hey, you just paid $75 for a game. Why not go out to the store and buy a bunch of $13, $14, $15 figurines to unlock crap in the game that you already paid full price for? I hate that, and I don't even have children bugging me to buy toys.
I refuse to buy my kids those things. My kids love looking at the Skylander stuff at Walmart and Target. They'll play with the display base, where you can take the packaged character and stick it on the display base, and it'll show like a mini trailer for that character. They'll play with that stuff. But yeah, but I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna get in. I'm not gonna get in there and mess with that stuff.
Yeah, good man. You stay strong.
Yeah.
I'm starting to turn on Amiibo too, because more and more they're just unlocked. They tend to generally be keys for downloadable content more than actually unlocking stuff that's already on the game disc. But I do not like, because if I want this, as I've mentioned before, if I want the spinner in Hyrule Warriors, and I do, I have to buy a $13 toy. I have to buy the Link Amiibo, and I don't want to pay $13 for one weapon in Hyrule Warriors. That's a ripoff.
Yeah.
And I realize that Link can be used in several different games, but I don't have Smash Brothers. Not gonna get it. Don't have Mario Kart 8. Not gonna get that one. Not gonna get. Well, he's not in Mario Party. What else does he work for? Yeah, maybe he'll do something in the new Legend of Zelda game, but
I'm sure he will. He would have to, because if he doesn't, people are going to be ticked off.
Yeah. Z2400. This will be archived on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. It'll probably show up shortly after we finish the show.
Yeah.
So Oh, well, hell, let's do it real quick. So, Obama's cybersecurity proposals. I did not watch the State of the Union because I worked late and Obama was not very considerate of that fact. Thanks, Obama.
See,
Um,
I had an episode of Flash, I had an episode of Castle, and then a couple other shows too. So yeah, I was busy watching stuff that was actually entertaining and fulfilling.
yeah. From what I read, they want to increase criminalization, sentencing and penalties for the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which I already think they're a bit too high, especially for what you can get grabbed for with
Yeah,
that
it's like
stupid law.
35 years. Adam Schwartz was looking at 35 years for accessing a network he was allowed to be on
Hmm.
and downloading documents from a service he was allowed to download documents from.
Yep.
And he was looking at 35 years for doing that
Yeah.
under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and that's insane.
Yeah. There's another some federal thing that overrides all the state laws as far as a cybersecurity, where companies, if they suffer some type of security breach, they have to report within 30 days or something like that. That
Mm-hmm.
overrides all, from what I read, it overrides all state laws, even state laws like my own California's, where I think the law says something like as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Uh, which it's like, it seems to me you would want to create a floor instead of a ceiling. It's like at minimum, states have to, companies in each state have to report by this amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
um, rather than putting a ceiling on it and say, okay, it doesn't matter what the state law says, you've got 30 days. Because, yeah, I don't like that one. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are comparing some of the president's cybersecurity legislative proposals to CISPA, which I didn't he threaten to veto because it sucked.
Yeah, that was one of the things that got a lot of attention. Is people were combing over his proposals and comparing it to previous legislation, and he is taking a lot of stuff out of legislation that people hated in the past. CISPA. I don't know if there was anything relative to SOPA or PIPA are in there, but CISPA was another big, was one of the big ones, and a lot of other um, where did my IGDA stuff go? But yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that in there, and people were like, what? We hated this stuff before. You think we're gonna like it now that you're, putting it all together under a different umbrella? It's like, no, this is just as bad. The
It feels like, again, it feels like that. Well, cybersecurity is a big thing. It's important to people. I better look like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
It's better to actually do something stupid than to do something, something that's stupid but it's easy, rather than something that's hard but would work. I
Yeah.
don't. Argh, that's so frustrating.
Yeah, and there's a lot of groups that have talked about this, and the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, they wrote a lengthy article about it. One of the one of the headers on there is "Zombie Bill dead in 2013 stumbles from the grave in 2015." Talking about CISPA. CISPA died an ignominious death in 2013, and now he's looking to revive it. The next header is when the DOJ says modernizing in quotes. They may mean we can charge a 10 years felony for sharing your HBO Go password, and that's what a lot of this stuff is. If you're not an HBO Go subscriber, it's under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. It's illegal for you to access HBO Go. Even if your friend or family member shared that with you. Um, And then they talk about the data breach proposal. It says that the administration's proposed standard is weak. Ideally, it would have proposed a floor, not a ceiling. And this is talking about the disclosure policy of 30 days.
Hey. We seem to be along the same lines then.
Yeah. And so had they set a floor, say when they should do it, instead of a ceiling, it's just things like that, and then more recycled ideas. And so the EFF doesn't like it. The IGDA put out some information about it and how they put out their position on net neutrality, because that was something else that the Obama had talked about, was net neutrality and broadband access. And one of the good things he talked about was getting rid of state laws that prevent broadband competition. Several states in the U.S. Have laws on the book that prevent cities from creating their own broadband network and leasing out those lines to other companies, or even running the internet service themselves. And so President Obama, in an effort to make broadband more accessible, wants to see those laws go away so that more people can have an opportunity for that. And so things like that are good, but the CISPA stuff is just pretty terrible. And the ESA supports as Matthew reminds us, the ESA supports Obama's CISPA-style cybersecurity legislation.
It also supported SOAP and PIPA a few years ago.
Yes.
Which I made a video about, and you should all go watch. I think it's called ESA Loves SOPA or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And and my thoughts on this is Sony is a member of the ESA. At least the video game division is, and the movie division was the target of the hacking scandal just not too long ago.
Yeah.
And so the ESA is looking out for the best interests of their business partners, but the thing is something that's in the best interest of the business partners not always in the best interest of those business partners' customers. And that's where a lot of this stuff about cyber, a lot of the problems with the cybersecurity proposals is that it's bad for individual people and citizens in the U.S. It's good for companies, but not good for the people that make up those companies and pay those companies for their goods and services.
Yep.
So.
Which is kind of funny, because a lot of times you might think, well, isn't what would be good for your customers kind of roll uphill and be good for you?
Well, it would be, but the thing is that's not the way they look at it. They don't want to see, they look at it and see, oh no, somebody hacked Sony and stole all these emails and stuck them out on the internet, so now everybody can see how we think and what we how we think of our customers and how we do business. They think of that as a terrible thing and something that needs to stay hidden, instead of realizing that, oh, we made these mistakes, maybe we should stop doing these things, so that if this stuff comes to light, we aren't going to get in trouble, with our customers. But yeah.
So that was the week that was, and I think we are done.
Yep.
Good. Although Z2400 says last gen we had games like Guitar Hero, and we had to buy a guitar for that game that would work fine on a controller. I can't say I agree with that. I think the guitar controller actually fundamentally alters the experience. I don't think the game would be playable or really even fun on a standard controller. I think it really needs that guitar peripheral.
It's like people make similar games to be played on mobile phones and stuff, and it's like yes, you could play Dance Dance Revolution on a controller.
Mm-hmm.
But
that one you
it
actually
wouldn't be Dance Dance Revolution. It would be Match the Arrow Revolution.
Yeah.
And so same thing with Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Yes, you could play the game technically.
Although I will certainly concede that Activision and Harmonix, or they one and the same, where it did get a bit too gluttonous with the multiple
Yeah.
peripherals in
When, when
games.
you when you release 4 versions of Guitar Hero in 1 year, you're kind of saturating the market.
Yeah. Now to be fair, you could use Guitar Hero 3's guitar with Guitar Hero 5, but they were always sure to make little improvement. I think Guitar Hero 4 or 5 or something had the little touchpad slidey thing somewhere on the handle that did something. I forget, but
Yeah.
it's like, really, guys, you don't need to do that. You're just gonna kind of choke your customers to death, and then the whole thing's gonna crash, and we're not gonna have any music games. And
Yeah.
look what happened. You know, I'm wondering when the Ubisoft is going to realize that it's flooding the market with Assassin's Creed. It's not going to work. That bubble is about to burst. I
Yeah.
mean, at least Activision has the good sense to keep it to one a year. I think you could do one a year, but Ubisoft is just like, we gotta have like 3 Assassin's Creed games in a year, man. It's gonna be awesome. People eat this stuff up. So, and as Matthew points out, yeah, Harmonix is hinting at a new rock band. They just released like 3 new DLC this month or last month, which is the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think enough time has passed that they could get away with bringing back Rock Band. Although personally, I liked Guitar Hero better.
That's only because you don't have any friends.
Well, Guitar Hero, starting with 4, did the whole rock band-esque thing with the drums and karaoke and stuff.
Yeah.
But I felt that I liked the feel of the Garage Band, Guitar Hero instruments better than the Rock Band ones, and I also felt that the interface for Guitar Hero was easier to read. What was better than it was in Rock Band. Incrementally, I just preferred Guitar Hero. So, okay, so that's really totally it. So anyway, let us plug our stuff and be out of here. Andrew Eisen here just did a video. It's called something. Let me look. It's called "Did Nintendo Lie About Mario Kart 8 Sales?" And whenever here's a secret of journalism. Whenever an article poses a question in its title, the answer is no. That's a good rule of thumb. If you read an article and the title is a question, the answer is almost certainly no. So anyway, watch my stuff on YouTube. Andrew Eisen, Eisen. Is how you spell it. At Andrew Eisen for Twitter. My Facebook page is Andrew Eisen YouTube. Twitter, I announce my videos there, but mostly it's just me being goofy and saying weird stuff. My Facebook page, I usually talk about video games, but sometimes other things. So, fun places, come hang out. And yeah, that's it for me. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at EasyKnight, and you can follow my game development work on Twitter at DK_gaming, and that's DivineKnightGaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com. And just a point of trivia for you guys before I close out. In 2007, Oklahoma declared the watermelon the state vegetable. And I had a lot of laughs around that. A lot of people around the country and throughout the world laughed at it. And everybody thought it was really stupid at the time, but for some reason the state legislature made the watermelon the state vegetable. And this year, some kindly member of the Senate has decided to repeal that. And I think that's the best piece of legislation to enter the Oklahoma legislature this year. And I really hope that it passes because it needs to go away. And what's really sad is there's a lot of people who comment on various articles about this who think that it's a waste of time to repeal that bill, and I hate those people. So I think this is probably one of the better pieces of legislation introduced this year. But that's it for me.
Okay. So let's look at our numbers because I found the analytics page. So
Awesome.
we had 15 people watching and 16 was our peak. So awesome. We're going up.
All right.
Uh, Zachary, you want to plug where your games are because
Oh,
Z2400's asking.
yeah. Divine Knight Gaming. You can check out some games I've made there. They're all Flash based. I don't have any commercially released games, so I'm working. My brother and I were currently working on our first. We tried kickstarting a game last year and it didn't work out, so we kind of switched gears and working on a different game, and probably March, maybe April, we'll decide when to start the Kickstarter for it. But we're hoping to get something viewable and playable by the end of February. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that. But we'll have screenshots and videos and stuff in the meantime. But yeah, so
All right.
divinenightgaming.com.
Cool. All right, you have been listening to episode 128 of Super Podcast Action Committee. You can email us at superpackpodcast at gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes. There is an audio version, and I work really hard on it. And like us on Facebook. We stream live every week on GamePolitics.com and my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we run a chat. It runs through my Twitch because the Google chat doesn't work as well. But I'll look into that, see if that's more convenient. So, see you all next week, and have a good one. Later.
All right, see ya.